Walking is the best medicine to improve your circulation. I know we always sound like a broken record, but over the next hour, we're going to have an inspiring discussion about how to walk effectively to grow those natural bypasses around any blockages you might have in your legs, known as peripheral artery disease. Of course, we have my great co-host. We have Kevin Thomas Morgan, amazing author. Make sure you look him up on Amazon and check out his books. We also have a really special guest. We have Kyle Dippel. He is a physical therapist assistant out of Iowa. And I met Kyle through his dad, who ended up with the Global P.A.D. Association's Courage and Care Award for 2024-2025. He is a legend in peripheral artery disease treatment. He's one of the pioneers for some of the most advanced methods, and he is helping to save life and limb. He will do everything in his power, exhaust all efforts to try and save a leg. But as you know, surgeries can only go so far. The most durable treatment is, in fact, exercise, exercise, exercise. Thanks so much for joining us. This is going to be a fun hour, Kyle.
I look forward to it.
I hear you picked up good old Kevin's book over there. You actually read through it?
I did. I read through it. It was a great read. I really enjoyed it. It's how motivational it is. You know, it touched on a lot of good points. I just like the kind of progressions it made, starting with kind of smaller movements, just working on getting that blood flow, and then progressing to more of that strengthening aspect and get moving.
That's awesome. Do you deal with a lot of peripheral artery disease patients in your practice?
So we haven't seen too many of them. I think we maybe one or two, but I get a lot more of my information from my dad and kind of do some research on my own.
Yeah.
So we don't see too much of it around here, fortunately.
What do you guys deal with the most in your practice?
A lot of it's orthopedic stuff. So we're an outpatient clinic. So it's knees, all the joints you can think of. Had a couple neurological stuff, but I mean, there's one patient that came with a DVT. So it's kind of a similar approach with kind of getting that blood flow and kind of easing our way into things with that. So, I mean, we had a good outcome with that one. So
what are some of the things that when you think about circulation in your legs, do you have some great small isolated exercise that you suggest, like for the patient with the DVT?
yeah, I think heel raises, standing or sitting. So if you can't tolerate standing for too long, start with sitting down, doing those. Some ankle pumps, just kind of like long sitting, get the legs lengthened out. Do that 10 to 15 times, couple sets, sorry. And then a lot of the heel raises, just get that calf pumping. And then I think Kevin touched a lot on that in the book too, early on.
Yeah, Kevin, you try. You're a big believer in some of those small isolated exercise. You have did you read about the P.A.D. 100?
I did. I didn't get too in depth with it, but I did kind of look over that a little bit. I liked it.
And he's also a big proponent of the yoga toes. Had you ever heard of that before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So when I was going through school, we called it toga.
Toga.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way.
So I know quite a little bit about that.
Kevin, you're awfully quiet over there. You're not at your home base. It looks like you're sitting in a car.
I've got the dog panting next to the mic, which I'm trying to mute whenever I'm not talking. But I think the real trick of everything we do here, Kyle, is to try to give people some agency, some control over their life. Once they leave the doctor or surgeon, they're kind of on their own largely. And so they really need to know what they personally can do to help themselves. And that's what a lot of this is about. Plus, Kim's work to save them from avoidable amputation. That's a lot of what we do. I just wish more doctors were interested in our work.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's some that are kind of knife happy and go right to the amputations, but I think just being an advocate for yourself. And I think you made a really good point about getting that assessment from like a PT or a masseuse, kind of find out where those weak points are and then focusing on that. And a lot of times when people are told they have to exercise, they kind of this misconception where they have to go all out, heavy weights and stuff like that. But really
Yeah.
should kind of start getting started with the smaller movements and then working our way up.
Yep.
Little
certainly.
by little, do your personal best every single day. And we always tell people not to compare themselves to anyone else because everyone presents differently. And I know, like, for Marina, for example, Marina, I mean, that was probably hard for you in the beginning when you could barely walk to, to the mailbox, and you see Kevin here out there doing marathons, and you're wondering, well, how do I get from here to there? And it's almost demotivational, right?
One can hope. I'm still thinking, how do I get there?
But you're here every single week. And she's actually in a supervised exercise therapy program. How are you doing, Marina?
Good. It's week 6.
Wow.
This week, I was there this morning, and I was able to walk almost 7 minutes without pain. So that's, an improvement. I started
Huge
at 1
improvement,
minute.
Marina.
Pardon me?
Huge improvement, Marina.
Yeah. Yeah. But the rest of the 15 minutes is brutal. But those first 6 are good.
You walked, how long did you walk with the claudication?
Probably about 15 minutes.
Wow. What goes through your mind? How do you talk your way through that claudication pain to just keep pushing, taking one more step and one more step?
Yeah, I just keep saying, okay, because I have a big clock, 1 more minute, 1 more minute. And when I get there, okay, 1 more minute or 2 minutes or get to 45 or, something. But, it's hard. But I mean, I could do this at home without the program, but I just wouldn't do it as well. I think even though, they're encouraging me there, there's nothing there that I can't do by myself at home. It's just walking on the treadmill, but it's just, I guess, the push to get there, and you're there, you do it. When I'm home, it's, gosh, I broke a nail. Maybe I won't go on the treadmill. It's a lot easier to put excuses when I'm home versus when I'm there.
That's gonna be my favorite line. Hey, Joshua, we need to start our nonsense board. Like what Dr. John Phillips, one of his nurse practitioners last night, shared her nonsense board. And she has all of the sayings. That one, I broke a nail, but the work is at home. So what do you think in terms of the percentage of patients that only do the exercises you give while they're right there in front of you because they're accountable? They won't do them at home.
Unfortunately, it happens more often than not. And it's almost humorous because we'll ask them how the exercise is going at home. They'll say, oh yeah, they're great. And then we'll have them do the exercise and they're like, oh, how do you do that one? So it's I don't know how to get through to them sometimes because we reiterate the important thing is keeping up with the exercises outside of therapy. Cause we'll set you up for success, but it's that self accountability to keep doing the exercises so you don't wind back up at square one and have to come back in. Cause I tell people that I'd rather you do the exercises and not take time out of your day to come into here than and do the exercise at home.
Well,
And we
for
have
the-
Michael that's on our YouTube channel. And if anyone's on our YouTube, make sure you do like the video, subscribe to our channel while there, because we're here every single week, actually all week long, with different doctors and clinicians to answer all of your questions. So make sure to like the video and subscribe, but also make sure you do visit Kevin Thomas Morgan's channel as well, at Fit Old Dog, and subscribe there for some great videos with exercises to help improve your circulation. But we have Michael who's there, and he says, what is the most important part of a treatment plan if I'm having trouble staying motivated? We'll start with Kyle and then Kevin pop in after.
I think the most important part is just kind of getting started. It is a very tough thing, exercises day. So start with some of the easier exercises, kind of get that body moving, and then work your way up to some of the strengthening. Because I like to start with some of the mobility exercises. just to get them started with, to get the muscles warmed up, and then go into
What
the
are some
strength.
of those? Yeah, what are some of
I mean,
those?
it depends on what they're in here for.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could just be standing up and sitting down from a chair a few times.
Okay.
Just kind of bending that knee, kicking it out a little bit, work on tightening those quad muscles, and then kind of work on the standing and weight bearing exercises. So
And so it's having someone to work out with gives you accountability.
Yeah.
Alternatively, it's very, very hard just on your own to make yourself do it. That comes down to, real discipline. So try and find a way to be accountable. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could have a watch, you get a Garmin watch or something like that, and then you have a friend who you send the output to. I know you actually can get a Garmin to give you a really nice walking workout by swinging your arm back and forth, sitting in a chair, but I didn't tell you that.
I had a
Accountability.
patient that gave it to her dog and wrapped and pinned it onto her dog. And I said, that's not fair. Because I said, oh my gosh, you walked so much, today. And
And
she's like, okay,
you
I
ran
have
a
to be
3-minute
honest.
mile pace. Amazing. But accountability and getting started is, as Kyle said, getting started is the hardest thing.
But I find that most people, they really don't lie when it comes to this stuff. I mean, if they'll start, but then Kyle, they're pretty honest once you dive into it.
Unless you lie to yourself.
And
yeah,
that's true.
yeah. They do. I mean, it's all about wanting to get better too. I mean, if you got to put that work in. If you want to, I think having some goals, like one little goal at a time. I mean, it doesn't have to be these major improvements that you see, but kind of like Marina, start with walking short distances, take a little break, go longer distances. But it's all about wanting to get better,
Yep.
And sometimes it's at the beginning of that book that Kevin, I'm going to keep coming back to this book. So it was really good. It's finding those goals,
Write
and
a
just
review on Amazon, Kyle.
I will.
That actually really helps. Or
Yeah.
better still on Goodreads.
Yeah, no, it was a good book. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and getting reviews is really tough. In fact,
Yeah.
I'm just finishing my first audio book through the encouragement of Josh, and I'm starting to enjoy the process of making it. So the next book I'll convert to an audio book is that training plan, because that market's taking off and people will, listen while they're driving the car or whatever. So it's been quite a bit of work, but now it's coming together.
Yep. And Michael says that was really helpful from you both. But I'm wondering, Michael, if you want to hear from a couple of other patients about their motivation, because I see Douglas had posted in our chat here, the disease really gives new meaning to the phrase one step at a time. Douglas, do you want to elaborate on that?
It just that's kind of simple. It's just the idea of, like Marina and we talk about, getting to that point of hurting so much that it's hard to take that next step.
Yeah.
Convincing myself to take that next step and the next one when I'm still a human being. When I feel pain, my first thought is stop. I don't want to do this crap. No. I want to sit down. Where's the chair? And to tell myself and convince myself on a regular daily basis, yeah, I walked 20,000 steps a day, but did I walk through Collateral to build that? Did I walk through claudication to build those collaterals and to convince myself to take that next step? And that next one, when my brain is telling me no, as loud as it is telling me to take that next step.
Hmm. you have to treat that workout, right? No matter what it is. I mean, you have to know, and Kevin, we talked about this before. It's really important to know the good pain from the bad pain. And I'm curious, both of you share that perspective on, again, on what, how do you know as a patient? I think it's different when you have something that's a circulation issue versus something that is musculoskeletal, right? When it comes to pushing through the pain. Can you elaborate on that?
Me?
Both of you, either one of you first.
Yeah, I mean, the pain is different. I mean, that pain that helps you to push through it, it's kind of like that muscle burning. Feel like the muscles are working compared to that, oh boy, something's wrong, I need to take a break. And I think it is important to take breaks. I mean, because you're going to need to give yourself some rest to kind of let those symptoms settle down before you can keep going. But we tell people that you're going to feel some muscle burning, everything working, and that's okay. You can push through that. It's that pain where that kind of sharp pain, it's like you feel like you can't move anymore. Then you can say, okay, I'm going to take a break for a couple minutes, let this settle down, and then I'll keep going until it happens again. And then it's just kind of like a cycle.
And Kevin.
Yeah.
Hi, Sabrina, by the way.
To me, it's important to know the difference between endurance and intensity. If you go to my website and you look under the Keep Your Feet tab, there I put up two graphs, one showing my results from my Garmin for a 5K intensity where I had to stop, and I stopped walking or walk running, whatever I'm doing. I stop when I sense that there's dysfunction. My feet are starting to hit the ground rather than talk to the ground. I back off from what I call a level 5 pain, which is dysfunction, and I let it drop back to a 2, which is really, really mild discomfort. And once I'm ready, I do it again. So I show you on one of the graphs what that looks like, starting and stopping, starting and stopping. At the end of the 5K, I doubt I could have done much more. And then the other graph shows endurance, where I keep my pain level around about a 4, which means it's pretty intense pain, mainly in my calf, but also in my feet. But I'm not having any sense of dysfunction. My feet are operating well and everything's okay. And then I kept up that for the 5K. And I could have kept going for another 5K, no problem doing that. It's just a matter of dealing with the pain. And remember, pain that's not related to dysfunction is good pain because it's playing a role in growing collaterals. You're sending that message you need help. So knowing that difference is important. So in a way, if there's dysfunction, it becomes bad pain. If there's no dysfunction and it's just pain, then it's generally good pain. And it takes a little practice to know. If the next day after you've done a long walk, your feet feel bruised, especially the balls of your feet, you're pushing it too hard. You do not want to damage your feet, which you could. So that's how I look at it. Those two graphs are actually pretty interesting, especially when you see the difference in my cadence. That was quite a surprise, of which I was pretty well unaware at the time. Oh, can I ask Marina a question?
Oh no, here we go.
By the way, Marina, did you try going off atorvastatin or not?
I did that day, Kevin, that day.
It might take a while to sense the difference if there is one, because I'm treating you as an experimental subject. Squeak, squeak. So have you noticed any difference at all?
I noticed the
La,
difference
la, la.
right away with my legs not being as tired. I have not noticed a difference with my calves feeling bruised.
Right. Well, that will take time, because if it is atorvastatin induced rhabdomyolysis, a lot of healing needs to go on. I mean, I'm not your doctor, so I'm just going to assume I'm treating you as, a bovine or something. So anyway, I'm really glad you're giving it a try, and you can always go back on. And anyway,
Exactly.
the statins are really designed for people with hypercholesterolemia, which I believe you do not have. And it also is to try and prevent a problem 20 years down the road. It's not an immediate treatment of P.A.D. And so one has to be very cautious with statins. But I think I've expressed that fairly strongly before. I mean, I've seen the muscle lesions down the microscope in a mouse soleus, and I tell you, it was just like Monday morning leg in a horse. It was pretty, or new recruits disease in the Marines. It's the same thing. You end up actually putting out, you know, the hemoglobin in your, not hemoglobin, myoglobin in your urine if it's bad enough. So it's definitely something to be careful of. And I don't think people are quite aware of the potential damage of statins. I'm not saying they're all bad, but they do have their uses. And for someone to say you shouldn't be on a statin just because you have diabetes, I consider to be a result of gross ignorance. Was that kindly said?
Everyone knows my view, so I have to go by the protocols, the standard protocols, and just always remember the advice and views here. That of the speakers, always ask your medical team. Don't just act on anything you hear here because it's just from those speakers. So we'll just leave it at that. But I'm glad, Marina, that you're feeling better. Hopefully you have a chance to talk to your doctor about it. But we do find with especially that one particular brand that a lot more people do tend to have side effects that do affect their walking. And it's really important to have that discussion with your doctor because there's a wide array if that's appropriate for your treatment plan. But I want to jump to Mike because Mike, what keeps you motivated? Kyle, Mike ended up 6 months ago, couldn't even walk up the hill to his house, so he didn't want to leave. And now he's walking 13 Ks without stopping.
That's awesome.
What keeps me motivated is knowing that I've still got a life ahead of me. I got diagnosed with this disease early, at 43 years old, and I want to live the rest of my life. I've just remarried my second husband. I lost my first husband to cancer, and just remarried, and I want a future. I'm moving to Canada. I'm just going through immigration from the UK. I don't want this to mess my life up. So that's enough motivation that I need to get up every single day. And I do the treadmill every single morning. I used to take a Saturday off, but my partner now, Geordie, says, no, go and do the treadmill on a Saturday morning for an hour. Go and get it done before we go out for breakfast. So, and he's my motivation as well. He keeps me going. He makes sure that I do it. So, yeah, that's for me.
Hey, Mike, we have Michael that's still listening in over on our YouTube and engaging with us here. And he says, I love the motto from Douglas, one step at a time. And he says, Kyle, Kevin, or Kim, have you ever known someone with a high risk of losing their limb? What do you think is the best way to encourage that person? And someone that lost their limb. And I'm curious if you can answer that question from your perspective.
Send them to Kim.
Send them to me. Exactly. We'll help 1-833 P.A.D. legs. Just give us a call. We'll help you find someone that'll help save your limb. As long as your life isn't on the line. What'd you say, Mike?
My mum actually follows you now, Kim, on Facebook. She watches all your videos on YouTube and stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, hi, Mom.
Trying to get my mum motivated. It's a bit of a task at times. But she sees how I'm getting on with it, and she is an amputee, so she gets on with it. She does really well. She walks with a prosthetic. She travels. She's just been to Canada. And I just say to her, you've got to keep going. You've just got to keep going, because the moment that you sit around doing nothing, your life just becomes null and void. Yeah. I just feel like, so I try and motivate my mum as much as possible, but like I say, it's a bit tricky at times.
That's why
it is.
There's that great quote by Nietzsche: anybody who has a why can always find a how. It means you have to have a reason to fight, and then if you have a good reason, you'll find a way. And walking in this case is one way. So so if you're an amputee, you've got to still be growing collaterals in the other leg if it's she lost the leg.
Yeah. She still eats microwave meals though, which I'm really trying to get her off doing. She eats a
Yeah.
lot of processed food, but she doesn't
Oh,
smoke anymore. She gave up smoking
good.
when she had her surgery. That was 13 years ago. So yeah, and just to second what Marina said, there is some days in the week where I get up and I can't find the motivation, but I just get it done. And you know what? Whenever I finish my workout on the treadmill and I finished all my stretches, I actually feel good about myself.
Yeah.
So it changes my way of thinking, and it changes the way
Yeah.
that the day is going to go. So
And Douglas,
Yeah.
Douglas was on deck. We were talking before this that Douglas was on deck for amputation, and he has literally, because of his own grit and perseverance, he has been able to turn his life around, right, Douglas? You were on deck. What do you think is the best way to encourage someone who was on deck? What worked for you to motivate you to say, I'm not just going to lay down and die here?
Well, I think for me, part of mine came from, I'm also in recovery, got 40 years clean and sober. So a part of that is I have to, my number one thing is practice. I tell people that I work with all the time, I work with in recovery, you got to practice the principles. And that is taking that one step, even when I don't want to.
Mhm.
I have this idea. They're not going to find me on the couch, rolled over, dead, watching some stupid show. They're going to find me out here with a saw in my hand or something because I'm not dead yet. And I tell people in recovery all the time, get up, take that one step, that one step, that one step, and after a while, it's that saying: if you keep doing the same thing, what do you get? The same result. And until I change that process, I'm just I'm going to end up losing my left leg. I have a heart surgery coming up. I have another surgery coming up, and my brother says go home and rest. It's like, no, I'm gonna go home and walk. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm gonna hang in there. And it's practice, practice, practice. So get off the couch, take that first step. In 2 weeks from now, you'll want to get up and take that next step, and then a week after that, you will want to do it again, because, like Marina says, now I can walk 5,000 steps without it hurting because I did the practice to build the collaterals.
Yep.
That's just me.
And no, it's great. It's really motivational, and you're doing absolutely fantastic. And Kevin, what do you think? We loop in Diana here because I think Diana, you've been on deck for amputation for several years, and you've just kept on going, and now we're really in this fight. Michael wants to know, what do you think is the best way to encourage someone who's
Good.
at risk of losing their limb? Well,
Wait.
you're the perfect person to ask. What is the best way to encourage you?
I think the one thing you said to me, I think part of my problem is the diet as well because I'm diabetic. And the one thing you had said to me was, anything that you put in your mouth, you need to think, do I want to lose my leg for this? And that plus, a lot of the encouragement through the um through talking to Dr. Danzinger as well,
Mhm.
just improving my diet. And then in terms of moving, I struggle because I have several things going on. It's my leg as well as my feet, and so if I have pain on my feet, it's hard to get the legs moving. And so that's what Kevin Morgan is helping, just kind of trying to come up with exercises, right? And at this point, I'm just really afraid to lose my leg because I hear so many stories about how, people think they still have their leg and then they get up in the middle of the night and then they just fall. And I'm just terrified with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that is
video I
scary.
put up on YouTube, I still think of you as Pally Pally, but Diana,
Yeah.
I didn't manage to quite induce fairly severe claudication. If I got the angle of my foot right and worked that, that lateral head of the gastroc is my worst muscle. And I think it's because the collaterals are less well developed there, because that's the hardest place to do it, on the outside of your foot. And I found I could induce claudication. It took a little bit of work, and so it's worth a try. The real trick is to be a claudication or collateral detective and find out what gets your muscles hurting in a, in a claudication way. And we're all different, so different exercises will work differently for different people. But inducing claudication is critical.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, Kyle? And if Diana, you have additional questions, like let's try over the next few minutes. Let's see if we can, come up with a full plan for you. And remember, always check with your doctor to see if it's right for you. We're not
Yada,
giving you
yada.
advice.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin made a good point, is finding those weak spots, finding what induces that claudication, and then working on those muscles and finding the right combination of movements for you. So whether it's working on the hips or the quads or the hamstrings, and kind of honing in on those, and then a lot of stretching out, getting those feet moving, getting that blood pumping, I think is one of the most important things.
Do you have any specific exercises that you have people do while they're sitting? I
We're
know
on
you talked
TV.
about the
I
heel
know it's getting
lifts
warm,
and
isn't it?
toe lifts. We
Mhm.
talked a little bit about doing the toe yoga,
Yep.
and then the P.A.D 100, as I'm demonstrating here. It's easier to do with your fingers than it is with your toes.
Yeah, I mean, I think those
Starting with the
exercises.
toes is, sorry.
No, that's okay. I was
Those are
just
all
gonna.
from Kevin's book.
Yeah, I think starting with that, 'cause I mean, that's the farthest point from the heart, just getting the blood pumping. So starting with those, and kind of working your way up is going to help get that blood flowing a lot better. And so those ankle pumps, those heel raises, those toe raises, it's going to help a lot with that.
I hear your calf is your second heart.
Yeah.
I would imagine that you had a lot of those types of things with that person that had the DVT.
Yeah. It was, I mean, low endurance, a lot of claudication, a lot of the self motivation too. Cause I mean, they had gone through a few surgeries, and they kept getting these blood clots and these DVTs, and it was just getting to the point where they weren't motivated. So it was just kind of being there for them too, kind of easing their way into it, not kind of pushing them and wanting them to do it on their own. Because I mean, we can motivate as
Yeah.
much as we can, but it's really up to them to want to get better.
And Diana, what questions do you have? You have a captive audience here that are willing to answer all questions and help you get that motivation. I would love to actually hear from you that, what you've inspired me so much right now. I'm doing these exercises as we speak.
So my question is, when right now, right, when I start walking, so my problematic leg has been my left leg, but now when I start walking, the pain immediately starts on my right leg, and it's the whole leg. Is that claudication pain or something else?
It could be something else. So I mean, there's a difference between back pain and that claudication. With the claudication, you get more of that cramping sensation, and then back pain is kind of more of the deep ache, the burning sensation, and it can stem from the low back with the nerves. So
Yeah.
it could be something going on with that.
Yeah,
Do you
and I
have some
find
exercises?
claudication takes a little while to kick in. And the other thing
Yeah.
is, if you do induce it severely enough, when you rest, you'll have the pain of reflow or reflux of blood into the muscle. Whereas if
That's
this
true.
is a neurological problem, that wouldn't occur.
Okay, so I do feel better after when I stop, but it takes a while for that pain to subside.
Doesn't sound like claudication to me. But I
No,
guess
How often do you find for Kevin and Kyle, do you this special K duo? I love it. Do you find between, the both of you that a lot of people with PAD, because they do get the claudication pain. They're not walking as much. They're doing a lot more sitting. And when you do a lot more sitting, you can end up, the result is a lot of back issues, sciatica, things like that. So I'm curious, do you have some back exercises that either Kevin, you do, or Kyle, you work with your patients on that might be easy to visualize and to do to help ease the pain, even maybe some stretches?
Most important to stretch your psoas muscle and keep it relaxed for lower back pain. And also for lateral hip rotators, the pigeon pose, because that will, you've got to somehow keep your piriformis healthy and well, because in most of us, the sciatic nerve runs through the piriformis muscle. And if it gets tight and cramped up, that will induce sciatica, and that could cause pain down your whole leg. And it can come in different ways. And I imagine Kyle has something to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. We, when we get a lot of people with back, we focus a lot on core too, strengthening the core, because that's going to take a lot of pressure off the low back. We will sometimes do some nerve glides with the sciatic nerve. So kind of doing a little hamstring stretch, flexing the toes, pointing the toes and bending. So that's going to put some tension on that nerve. And a lot of hip strengthening stuff. So it's a lot of different movements there, but it's more often just strengthening that core too, and a lot of stretching, like Kevin said.
You know, I developed a pretty good test of your core strength. If you can balance on one leg and then pull your knee, bend your knee up so it's level with your pelvis, flex your knee. You're flexing your hip joint. It's the joint you flex. And then you pull that knee across the front of your pelvis. It will lock your pelvis. And so if your balance improves dramatically when you do that, you have a weak core, because your core is critical for balance. I mean, how are you going to balance on one leg or even both legs as you're walking? If your core is weak, your pelvis is flipping, flopping around. It has no strength.
Yeah.
It needs to be stable and strong and flexible. And if your core is weak, you do that, you'll be wobbling all over the place, even if you have good ankle balance. So I don't know what do you think of that, Kyle? It's just a thing I came up with.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. The pelvis is, yeah. So when a lot of those hip muscles, the core is weak. Like you said, we'll get that Trendelenburg gait. So we got to really stabilize that and work on some of that mobility too.
Kevin's actually even changed over the course of me doing this. From walking a lot, I was getting, some hip pain as I was walking during our sessions here, because I'd never really sat there and walked at a speed walk for 60 minutes. Usually I'll do 30. And as soon as I started implementing, one, I pretend more like I'm a marionette, pulling up, tightening my core. But I think the real game changer, Kevin, was the toes. And with the widening of your toes as you're doing it, and being more methodical and paying attention to how I'm placing my feet and the position of my toes, it literally completely, in that moment that I'm doing it and I recognize that I'm doing it, takes away the hip pain instantly. So thank you.
It's my pleasure.
And Douglas is doing some of those. For those of you, make sure you join the in-studio audience, because we have, Mike that's out there walking. We have Douglas that is sitting here doing his foot exercises. You can always join our live in-studio audience. Just email us at info@padhelp.org and get some accountability. That's what I love. I mean, at least it's once a week, right? You get the accountability, you get live coaching, making sure you're doing everything right, just like you're going, to the PT, as Kyle will attest to. You got to do it at home, and you need the accountability at home. Just join us every single week. We're here, same bat channel, same bat time, same bat people. I said bat,
Kim,
not bad.
Kim, there's also another great advantage of this, which has helped me a lot. And that is feeling that you're not on your own, because I fought the whole thing. I never talked to anyone I tried to. There's no interest. And so a lot of the stuff I did, I sold a few books, and some people said, well, I did help. But then once I got involved with your program, it meant I wasn't alone. Now I know, if I miss a session here, I miss seeing Mike and Doug and all the others. So I think I think it is helpful for people not to feel alone, and there's somewhere they can go for advice, even though,
and Diana, yep, go ahead.
Even though,
Sorry,
of
Kevin.
course, they should go to their doctor and get bad advice instead.
I love you,
I've got a few
Kevin.
maybe in observations.
Hi, Carl.
Hi. So, if you just to be sure, heel raises versus toe raises. Toe raises is when you're standing or when you've got your foot on you've got your plantar on the ground, and then you're raising up on the ball of your foot.
Mhm.
Okay. So, is there any opinion or information on, like, if at first that can be hard for people. I mean, I do have like gastrocsoleus claudication. Is there any kind of a goal to create there of, like, somewhere down the line getting to 100 a day? Or is, like your typical PT recommendation is 12 to 15 or 8 to 12 or 12 to 15 of an exercise to kind of focus, but not overdo it?
Yeah. We tell people to do 10 to 15 reps, depending on where they're at with their abilities. So 10 to 15 is kind of that magic number we tell them. I wish I could tell you a reason why with that research. That's just kind of what we do here. I don't know about other clinics. And then we usually do about 2 sets of those. And we tell them that if you get to a point where you're at 7, 8 reps and you're getting tired, take a break, because then you're going to start compensating and you're going to lose the effectiveness of that exercise. So,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. So it's just kind of starting out with what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I call these single leg calf raises, where you come up on the ball of your foot.
Yeah.
I got interested in the effect of that exercise years ago when I started researching what I call idiopathic nociceptive heel pain that gets diagnosed as so-called plantar fasciitis, which almost never is. Gets treated with heel injections, which is really stupid. And that's nicely explained and politely in my couple of books on so-called plantar fasciitis. But the real thing is, when you do that exercise, and sometimes it does help people in a number of ways with their hips and with their feet, is you keep your hip level. You don't let the other leg drop to the ground. You're
Mm-hmm.
lifting your body weight. And so the reflex is to keep your hip level. And that exercises your core quite nicely, even though you're unaware of the fact, because you're so focused on using your calf to lift your body off the ground. Yeah, it does some exercise for your calf. But the most useful thing it does, it tends to balance the muscles in your hips if you do it both sides, because now you are engaging your core so your pelvis lifts. Because you imagine if you lift one leg and you let your pelvis stay, like you let your pelvis relax, the other foot's going to stay on the ground. Of course, we don't do that. We lift and our pelvis stays straight, and it's because of the work of the core that occurs. And that is why some people find some help with nociceptive heel pain. Don't get me started on doctors and nociceptive heel pain. I'll start ranting. Anyway, so that's the important part to know. It's actually more of a pelvic core exercise than a calf exercise, but it is a good one. It really is a good one, and it can really help.
So from what you're saying, I deduce that what's happening there is you're activating the complete chain all the way down through the foot, starting in the core, so that it's acting as a functional system.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's good. A comment. I'd been kind of jonesing after a Nordic Track ski machine, because I used to have one for about 30 years and use it every day. And somebody gifted me one. They were just trying to get rid of it. It's kind of a no money exchange that is operating in the neighborhood around here. And I set it up, and I had been thinking about it specifically with the P.A.D. because that motion of cross country skiing is so smooth compared to walking. And one of the limitations I've had for before I realized I had P.A.D. and my walking distance was shrinking because my pain was coming on, claudication was coming on, but I misunderstood it. Now I use the Nordic Track, and because I understand the claudication, I can actually get my heart rate up to somewhere between 110 and 120, 130. Whereas just walking, I can't, because functionally
Good point.
I have a lot of territory to regain before I'm smooth enough walking. So
Yeah,
I can't get my
ski-to-thon is
pace
tough.
up.
Ski-to-thon is really tough. But what I mean, cross-country skiing, you call it? Yeah. No, it's a really good idea actually, because it's like the elliptical. You can actually get your heart rate up without claudication getting you stopped. But you get some claudication in the process?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Way to
So
go.
yeah, it's something, like I say, it's come back to me from my past, and I'm pretty thrilled about it.
I mean, it's a big
But of course,
machine
the
to have in your
machine,
house.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a big issue that, Kyle and Kevin and I always talk about with that when you're in those early stages, like, Marina as well, that you're not getting that cardiovascular workout. And 3 in 5 people who suffer a heart attack have PAD. And, so you have to vary your exercises. You have to, one, do an exercise like walking that sparks that claudication and push through. But at the same time, you also have to do yet another exercise. If that's not going to get your cardiovascular, your heart going, you need to do something else. And it's nice, Carl, that you found something that you can get a little bit of both.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really thrilled. The only thing is it hasn't been maintained in quite a while, so it's very clunky. And
Little work to
the guy in the apartment downstairs has a hearing problem, so it's okay, because
do.
it's kind of
That
noisy.
works.
But yeah,
When we lived in Switzerland, we did a lot of skiing, and I like downhill, and I tried ski de fond, and I could never work out how to stop. I mean, what do you call it? Cross country? Yeah, cross country. How do you stop if you're on a hill, on a
Pizza
nice?
French fry.
Snow plow.
yeah,
Snowplow.
yeah.
You can't snowplow. You're stuck in 2 grooves.
Well, it's just a set of techniques, and they are there. And I mean, people go up with loose heel, like cross country. They climb mountains and they ski down them.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some techniques called telemark turns.
Oh,
Telemark being
yeah,
from
that's
Norway.
telemark. But
Yeah,
telemark is difficult.
yeah, it's a different set of muscles. I know people that are very, very experienced with it. It's impressive. Yeah,
So while you're doing ski de fond, you come to a hill, you have to telemark to slow down the hill.
it's
I guess you,
possibly that. Yeah.
because I couldn't. Well, I tried, and then I went back to downhill, which I wasn't that good at, but it was great fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Kevin and Kyle, we have another question from Michael coming in on YouTube. Again, make sure like and subscribe to our channel if you're there on YouTube. He says, I've been trying to run more lately. Does putting my legs up on the wall to drain them help with lowering my risk of losing a limb? I would have to say no, if it's
Yeah,
arterial.
yeah. I think you're just kind of letting gravity do some work at that point. But I mean, if you want to do some ankle pumps while you're doing that, that'll kind of work with that, getting that blood flow too. But I think just keeping your legs up on the wall, won't do much with that effect.
That is
Kevin?
an interesting hemodynamic question that I will think about, because I'm sure the answer isn't that simple. So we have to look at the reflexes for maintaining pressure in our feet, which up in the air. Assume we're, getting our butt against the wall and put our feet up, which I used to do for stretches and stuff. That is an interesting question, one worth thinking about. So I will think about it.
So we're going to get Kevin on his soapbox again. So get ready to plug your ears, Kyle, because Cliff has a question that just, it's right. It puts him right on the soapbox. It's right there. I see Marina smiling because we just talked about this a little earlier, but we have Cliff on YouTube that says, I don't have PAD, but I've been on atorvastatin for years due to high cholesterol. Is that concerning? So I'm assuming, and Cliff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, what Cliff is actually experiencing is those muscle aches in his legs that might be triggered as a side effect for the atorvastatin. And so I'm just going to say, make sure you talk to your doctor about that. But if you're on that, no matter what, you should always just get tested for PAD. But it's something that Kevin is very passionate about and has even worked with Marina on in terms of the solution for that. But remember, advice and views, talk to your doctor. But go again. Kevin.
Okay, the question is, how high is your cholesterol? How severe is it? And therefore, clearly blocking its manufacture is a good idea, which is what the statins do. They block HMG-CoA reductase, so that makes total sense. So if there's life-threatening hypercholesterolemia, fine, treat it with a statin, but better still, treat it with exercise. If you can exercise enough, it will bring your lipids into line based on my experience. I mean, I have a genetic hypertriglyceridemia. They wanted to give me a statin. But as soon as I went to do Ironman training, after controlling it somewhat with diet, a lot of fatty fish seemed to help a bit, brought my triglycerides from over 2,000 down to the 500s, but they need to be below 150. Exercise brought my HDL up and my triglycerides down. Exercise worked well for that, but lipid regulation is very complex. If you have a hypercholesterolemia, there may be a need for a statin, though a atorvastatin might not be the best one. You have to have one that's least muscle damaging. But if you
Yeah.
combine it with exercise, you may be able to dump it. However, doctors have a terrible tendency to overprescribe statins and beta blockers. They all do it. And it's a huge mistake to overprescribe. So make sure you decide what's going on and what you need to do. And for that, you just need to understand a little bit of biochemistry. You don't need to understand the whole thing. And so it's a very important decision, very important decision. With a severely high cholesterol, I can see the use of a statin, but not a atorvastatin. Was that polite, Kim?
That was actually, that was one of the best explanations. I think that was incredibly fair. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, I would say so.
So we have one more question. I know, Kyle, you have to get back to work. I'll ask you a final thing just about your practice in the end, but I have one for Kevin and Kyle. Douglas, do you want to ask your question that you put in the chat?
Yeah, we don't really usually talk about, or we don't hear about this much, stretching before and after. The importance of doing that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what types of stretches? Okay.
Yeah. Stretching is very important because I mean you don't want to go into an exercise cold with those muscles not warmed up. So we do. I mean, it can be a light dynamic stretch where you're kind of moving and doing some stretching. I like to do some static stretching, kind of get those muscles really lengthened out. So then when we do get those contractions, we're able to strengthen them and not get that pulling or strains. And then after I do a nice little cool down. So I mean that's going to be a little bit of a dynamic more than static. But I think it's very important to get those muscles moving and stretched out before we're exercising.
I agree with Kyle on that, except to warn people, never overstretch a cold muscle. Warm them up first by moving around, even just by walking. And once they're warmed up, then you can start to stretch them. But definitely after a workout, every time. Every workout, I always do a stretch afterwards. And I tend to stretch the muscles that give me trouble. I have a tight glute minimus, and also I tend to have tight hamstrings. So I focus there, but I also do my routine, which is pretty long. And I tend to use, you know, the short stretches. What's the name of that thing? Active isolated stretching, which I really like, where you stretch for maybe 10
Douglas.
seconds and then you let it go, then stretch again and you let it go. It's active isolated. It was developed in Sweden, I think. And I find that more effective than a long stretch, which is what I used to do. So try the two, try the long stretches and try active isolated stretching that you can read about online. And use the one that works best. I don't know what your thoughts are on active isolated, Kyle.
Yeah, no, I mean I like that one. It's really what's best for you. But so that active isolated people tend to get to that ballistic stretching where they're just kind of bobbing. So you got to be able to be sure to hold it for about that 10-second period instead of just kind of going with those motions there. So no, but I like that thought.
Yeah, and I never bounce the stretch because you activate the stretch receptors that stop the muscle lengthening. It's also good to think of stretching as lengthening rather than stretching. It's a better
Hmm.
way to think about it. And I also tell people that when they're doing their stretching routine, remember it's a conversation you're having with your body, not something you're doing to your body.
I wrote that down in my takeaways from the book. I like that quote.
Because your body's in charge.
Yep.
Just think about it. One little tiny tear and you're all screwed up. So that's your body taking over. Okay.
I love that. Thanks, you guys. And Douglas said he's going to be able to do the splits by the time he's done stretching, right, Douglas? Yes.
Watch out for
He
that.
says yes. He gives us a
When I
thumbs
did
up.
martial arts, I did martial arts for about 4 or 5 years. I even got a stretching machine. There is no way I could get my hips far apart. And my
Me
PT told
neither.
me I had weak adductors. So it's the last thing. I mean, I'm really glad I went to the PT and got a checkup before I started full Ironman, because he was the one that told me my hip adductors that pull your legs together were very weak, and I could easily have torn them. So yeah, find the weak spots, right, Kyle?
That's right.
So Cliff says, thank you. You know, he's going to talk to his doctor. And we might have one of your your dad's patients right here. We call her PT 103. Kyle says, they say, Kyle, say hello to your dad. Eric Dippel. So if you're in Davenport, Iowa, you know, Dr. Eric Dippel, Kyle's dad, is one of the most advanced limb savers on this planet. He tries to go the extra mile to do everything in his power if you're on deck for amputation. But you know what I also love about your dad is that he is very candid and straight with the patients. He's like, it's either the cigarette or your leg. Like, it's
Yes,
your
he is.
choice.
He
And that's
doesn't
where,
sugarcoat things.
right? Was he always like that at
He
home? Well,
was.
it's either this or this.
He was very straightforward when we were growing up, and so it was good. It was good to have that.
It's always filled though. You know, he's coming from a good place. Like,
Yeah,
it's coming with
exactly.
heart. He
Yeah,
cares. He has compassion.
that's right.
And that's, you know, with Diana, right? It's you got to make a choice. It's either, you know, the rice or it's your leg. It's either the fruit or your leg, or it's either the Snickers bar or your leg. Like, it's always, you know, taking that one next step or not. Well, one next step could make the difference in life and limb. So try to take that extra step. As Douglas always says, it's just one step at a time. So Kyle, what is your best advice for those, you know,
said
if
to
they're,
Harry Potter.
what'd you say?
That's what Dumbledore said to Harry Potter. Harry,
What?
my boy, we are not so much defined by our abilities as the choices we make.
That was really well said.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think
it was
I love
Dumbledore.
that. It's always a good day when you can quote Harry Potter. Always a great end to the show. And you know, for those, if you're just getting started, Kevin talks about this all the time, to request a consult with your physical therapist. How do you talk to your doctor about getting an appointment with either a PTA like you or the physical therapist? How can we get that prescription? What do we need to say? You know, if we have PAD and they only have, let's say, a cardiovascular program or a muscular skeletal program, because PAD is not only underdiagnosed, but it's underappreciated, I think.
I think you could say to your doctor, I don't want to be fat like you. I need to go to a PT and start a training program. And if they don't like it, you find a new doctor.
On that note, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. You can just tell them you got some weakness in your legs and you want to get that taken care of. Tell them that be an advocate for yourself. Tell them that you want to get into physical therapy or go see someone. And I mean, if they're doing their job right, then they'll write that order. But I think just being an advocate and telling them what you want, because I mean, they're there to help you. So.
Okay, that's a better answer.
On that note, thank you so much, Kyle. If people are in your area, what area do you serve if people want to come to your practice over there with your
What area
team?
serve? So, are you talking like specialties?
Yeah, where are you located? How can
I'm in
people?
Muscatine, Iowa. For the Northport Clinic at Rock Valley Physical Therapy.
So if anyone's in that area, you can always ask for a referral to their practice. We appreciate you spending the time, Kyle. Hopefully we're here every Wednesday. Come back anytime, even if it's just for a few minutes. You want to pop in, pop out, check on some of the folks that you helped today. Thank you so much again. And Kevin, be safe on the road. This is always really fun. And next week, I think we're going to talk about how to get through the holidays. We have Thanksgiving coming up on the next day. And so I know starting on Wednesday, everyone's going to have an excuse as to why they're not going to walk. So it would be kind of fun to talk about while you're doing your holiday cooking,
How you doing,
maybe
guys?
while you are doing your holiday shopping, what are some of the really fun exercises that you can do? How do you get your steps in while you're celebrating the holidays? So I think that's what we'll stop and do next week. So thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great week and get those steps in one step at a time.
And thank you, Kim, for everything.
Thank
We
you.
love you. Thank you, Kyle.